Hey Skiba News Nation family, today we have a very special episode for you guys because we're joined by Lucas Cameron from the YouTube channel 7 Trumpets Prepper. Welcome to Skiba News Nation.
Hey, it's an honor to be here with you guys.
Cool, man. Where'd you grow up and how did you get into the prepper thing?
I was born and raised here in East Tennessee, and I guess what led me to become a prepper per se is it's kind of wild because I went from a homesteader to prepper back to homesteader. There was some
Okay.
things that I didn't have together, so it motivated me to fill those voids. But what led me to that was in 2009. That year, I was elected to be a deacon in the church that I was part of, and I didn't ask for that. People decided that they wanted me to be, elected to that, and I was like, okay. And so I really started setting and looking at the scripture. And I'm like, if I'm going to be at that position of power, I need to know and answer when somebody asks me that. And so what I done is I really started looking at biblical prophecy and the end days and etc. And I'm like, this is our generation. I'm like, these things are going to happen in our generation. And it's really wild right now saying that, looking back too, because like we're watching the bathtub plug being pulled on the river Euphrates that was prophesied to happen over 2 millennia ago. And it's happening right now, just in the past decade. And
Yep.
that's like literally factual news people can look up for themselves. And so when back of this, when I seen that, I'm like, I've got to get my family prepared. We don't have off grid power. We don't have backup for the whale. We don't have rain catchment. We don't have, I mean, there's just so many things we don't have in place, and we need to get to work. And so that started down that path. And then a couple years later, I was like, I think I need to start a YouTube channel and help spread the word on that. And so one thing led to another, and here we are today, 15 years later, pretty much almost.
Yeah, I don't know how my dad stumbled upon, being a prepper. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a demonized term, kind of like conspiracy theorists, which is kind of like what we are, a flat earther. They try to demonize things when you're trying to help the people you love. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's, kind of messed up. But he started getting really into it right before he was murdered. We have a doom room in our house. I won't disclose the location, but we do. but
Right.
uh, but I heard you're a flat earther, so you stumbled upon my dad's work somehow.
Okay. So, yeah, I love my mouse pad I keep in the office.
Sweet, I got
Reminds
the
me all
same
the
one.
time. But okay. So the journey to flat Earth. I like the azimuthal equidistant map. Or no, that's the Gleason map. I'm sorry. Yeah. Um, so anyway, what happened with that was, gosh, it was probably 2 3 years into my journey into really looking at the pillars of truth that's not being taught in the church house per se. And I was looking and I was like, Father, I'm so tired of, like, every time I think I've got this figured out, I keep stumbling. I'm like, if there's anything else I don't know, please just make it known to me. And it wasn't long after that I'd watched this YouTube video, and it was talking about flat Earth, and it was just random channel. I can't even remember who it was at the time. I was like, this is insanity. I'm like, I got to prove this wrong. And then I started looking into it, and I'm like, I actually am starting to lean toward what these people are saying. And then I seen the Go Fast 2014 video, and as a hobby astronomer for years, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, so the sun's over Nevada, the moon's supposed to be over like New Zealand. I'm like, you can't see them on a globe, even moon way out, or literally on each end of the Earth at that point. I'm like, I put these computations in. I looked at what the time signature was on the helicopter when they went to retrieve the rocket. Not to mention the thing just goes up, looks like it hits the dome, and then just starts falling back down. And you go to looking at all this, and I was like, man, I was like, there's something messed up about this. Like there's like multiple things in this situation here that shouldn't be able to take place, but yet they have. And then time progresses. I stumble up on your dad's work, the Chicago skyline, just many, many things your dad presented, like matched up with what I had been looking at. And then, of course, I've seen other people's work. And then it was like, dang. And then I looked deep into the scripture, and I'm like, this is facts. I'm like, the scripture backs this up. I'm like, literally, the sun and moon stood still for Yohasha. People would translate that Joshua. I'm like, there's no way these things could happen. If we were on a spinning ball, we'd all be like flung off this thing.
Yep.
And yeah, that was quite and the wild thing was when I started making a little mini series on my channel about it. it was wild to me and such a blessing to see how many people that were an atheist move away from being an atheist to believing in the Most High Yah just because of flat Earth. That was the turning point for them, and I found that very wild because like I came to the truth on all the things that I have through Scripture, but I came to the truth about the flat Earth, looking at it and deconstructing it from a scientific perspective, and that was a wild journey.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, as my dad liked to call it, biblical cosmology. Sounds
There
really
you go.
cool, you know?
Yep.
All right, Jake, you got
Yeah,
anything?
man, that's awesome that you've been looking into that. I can already tell that from what you talk about on your channel, and that we have a lot in common, just in terms of similar belief sets, and man, I don't know, Jeremiah, I got like a whole topic I kind of wanted to talk about, but I know if you have some more questions, we could get through your questions, and then we could,
Let's do it, bro. Do it.
Okay,
Let's go in.
all right. Well, for the sake of time, I know, I don't know how long we're going to be on here for, but I kind of wanted to kind of get to your perspective on how, in the modern church, you started off talking about the pillars of truth that we've kind of missed out on, that I think the Most High has been revealing to this generation. So people are having their eyes opened, and it's kind of helping clarify some certain prophetic narratives in the scriptures as we see things play out on the world stage. And as a student of scripture and as a student of the politics and conspiracies and stuff, which I highly appreciate and respect, what would you say um, is the thing that is the most veiled for the modern Christian church in terms of things that are going to be playing out in terms of prophecy because their eyes are blinded to certain truths? So I guess the kind of the to package the question, um, what are people blinded to? And when we look at scriptures like Second Thessalonians that says, because they received not a love for the truth, so that they believed a lie and were, damned for it. What is that lie? And in your perspective, how does that, alter our view of reality?
Well, let's unpack that because there's a lot. There's a lot to that. I mean, we're in the time of those that are itching ears too. So nobody wants to hear the truth. They just want to hear a watered down version. And a lot of people label things the truth. I always say, hit people with the Carfax, is that I want what thus saith Yahweh. Now, a couple things is I always try to look at where we're at and back up from there. Is that, like I said, we know that the river Euphrates was prophesied in the last days to dry up to make way for the kings of the east. That is currently in progression. When you look at when Messiah said that as of the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be, we had DNA damaged human beings on this earth. They were, mingled with the Nephilim, with fallen angels, etc. If we look at what went on in 2019 forward for a few years that many people participated in, of the modifying of their DNA via certain pharmaceutical drug sorcery companies. I'll just keep that as watered down as possible because I
Mm,
don't want y'all's content pulled. Every time I talk about that topic, I get my content pulled on YouTube.
us too.
So we see that taking place, which is prophesied that we would see as of the days of Noah. And in order to have as of the days of Noah, you have to have, what I would say normal human beings and then subhuman beings due to DNA modification and damage. So we see in that take place in the hybridization. We also see Second Ezra's chapter 16 being laid out, where that Scripture talks about woe to you Babylon and Egypt, woe to you Asia and Damascus. If you look at that, what would be in those regions today, especially with what's going on in the land of Palestine, Israel today, that's being primed to take place. Many people's like they haven't seen the man of sin. Everybody's looking for an antichrist, but Johann and John said that many antichrists went out into the world. So we're not actually looking for Antichrist as much as we're looking for a man of sin, Daniel's little horn that would speak great things against the Most High. And Daniel 7:25 talks about that he would seek to change times and laws. And if we look at the papal Roman Church, we see that they've modified the calendar. It's not the Creator's appointed times; it's the Roman papal calendar, the pagan Roman one, and that's went through many transitions throughout the many millennia that's passed. And then also we see that the commandments have been modified as far as the Roman Church goes, and then we have the man of sin sitting at its head. So that wicked one has been revealed. So we have that, but many are asleep to that. And I could just keep going and going and going. I mean, we have the globe, the idol of the globe being taught, when in opposition to that, the true, like I said, biblical cosmology, the Creator's true world. There's just so many things that have been compartmentalized and watered down that I do not understand for the life of me. And I made this point on a live stream recently, is that I just took the holiday Christmas and I'm like, that's actually the Feast of Saturnalia. And I'm like, I can show you in 2 seconds, in like 20 seconds. And I Googled it and I was like, right there's the answer. I was like, now you can do that too. And anybody wants to know the truth at this point, we live in an age of technology where you can just Google it and have your answer just like that. Um, but sadly, many people are asleep at the wheel, and I honestly believe it's going to take the Most High Yah to reach down and wake them up, because otherwise, I don't know how anyone's going to wake up to this point to see the truth if they haven't already.
Yeah, I think with all the different deceptions that there are, it kind of muddies the water. It's almost like if you didn't pack your bags and get ready to see through the lies on one topic, then the next one that came down the chute, you were all the more likely to fall for that deception. So it's an interesting kind of transition in the age of the internet. Also, we've had this amazing, beautiful gift of being able to exchange porously information that's counter narrative, that the government didn't exactly have control over. And now we're exiting that phase, the golden phase of the internet, and entering into a phase where they're going to be highly tailoring information found online. You already have fact checkers and the Truth Squad and all these different things that uh, are docking us. I mean, I tell the joke recently. You have to ask the question, who is in control, by who you can't criticize. And the WHO you can't criticize currently, the WHO. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things, but what do you think is going to be happening in these, next year or two? We're entering into an election year. This is a crazy time in terms of possibilities. Is anything particularly on your radar for this coming year?
Well, gentlemen, I'll just be honest with you. Watching the climate of the past decade, if there is another election in our current banana republic, I would be shocked. I think that, and I say this as a cryptocurrency business, mining business owner too, is that the crypto market and the banks and the stocks and everything else, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a massive crumble before, right up on the eve of election. There is going to be moving and shaking before the election to halt this thing, because just with the recent situation with Trump being removed from the ballot in
Mm-hmm.
Colorado and then being put back on, I have never seen something so unconstitutional in my entire life as an
Right.
American. And I forget who it was. I don't take credit for this. I want to give credit to whoever it was, but I can't remember. Some politician the other day said we don't remove officials from the ballot via the government. We do it via election. And I can't remember who quoted that the other day, but I'm like, that's exactly it. And furthermore, my allegiance is to the kingdom of the Most High Yah first and foremost, but I'm still stuck here in America in the meantime. And as that, I see our Constitution crumbling, and you look at the escalation of biblical prophecy taking place before us. I mean, I'm going to be utterly shocked if in the next couple years we don't see AI massively integrated into controlling those of us that would be the sound of alarm, I really think AI is going to be the tool used by Satan to really quieten us down. Because here's the thing: fact checkers, big tech, big government, even they are really hard pressed to constantly keep people down. Because I mean, they may shut me up today, but there's two more rises up in my place. And in order for Satan's kingdom to really operate in the New World Order to really do its thing, you need AI. It would be, if I was the wicked one, it would be my number one thing on my to do list to get integrated as soon as possible. Because with AI, the Most High is all knowing, all seeing. Satan is not. And so when we look at his kingdom and his government, that's a critical tool that's needed. So once AI comes online, and they've been telling us since 20, I think it's 20 or 2005, I believe it was. No, it was 2015. 2015 was when it really got heavy said that AI would be here about 2025. And we're right on track for that. I mean, they've got, Tesla bots shooting up the Cybertruck with automatic weapons. I mean, it's getting wild out here. And the seven trumpets of Revelation, when they pop off, the day D-Day plus one, when a third of the stars fall out of the heavens, I will know right then and there this is past the point of return. And I really feel like that we're going to see these things within the next decade, no doubt about it.
Yeah, what do you think about deepfakes? I think deepfakes are now more powerful than DNA evidence, and they can literally frame you for a crime. And you weren't even there. You know,
Yeah,
it's like they can prove that you were
absolutely.
there, but you weren't even there. It's just so mind-boggling. I mean, we talk about AI and deepfakes a lot on our show, and we kind of make fun of it. But I mean, you have to be able to laugh at it to fully understand it. I think, if that makes any sense. In my crazy mind, it makes sense, but
Yeah, the deep fake thing. I mean, AI is just to me. If I could take one thing off the table of any enemy it could be, I mean, government overreach, famine, plague, the trumpets, anything, I would take AI off the table. That would be the one thing I wouldn't have to deal with in this last generation. And I worry it's going to be one of the number one things that we have to deal with, because people can kind of be anticipated. I used to be a volunteer for FEMA, and catastrophe, calamity can somewhat be anticipated. And even when it does happen, it can be dealt with. But AI is a soulless, mind focused entity that is about destruction. And anytime AI has ever been able to, what I would say, free range,
mhm.
it's always went deviant and evil. And they have lots of proofs of that. That's public knowledge now too. Actually, somebody was hurt in the Tesla factory working on one of them robots just recently. The best I remember, I think that was made the news the other day. And so, I mean, like, you can really start seeing that it's a consistent trend of bad things whenever you bring up the word AI.
Yeah, I know. Siri's been telling people to drive off the road recently in the same area of town. Literally, they've been driving off the side of the road, and people just follow it because they don't know that it's a boat ramp or not. You know, they just go off and they have to be rescued, and it's crazy.
Man,
Yeah,
that's
it's
nuts.
kind of like the giant of our generation, right? I mean, the children of Israel had the giants in the land of Canaan, and we have AI. So, how do you think people will be able to deal with AI? Like, I mean, realistically, is it just completely cut off, isolated from technology? Is that the sole answer, or is there some kind of within the system answer?
Well, I'm going to tell you what my plan is and what I've been doing. In 2021, I started ramping down my off grid construction business, and I started ramping up a crypto mining business. And I'm not saying this to promote my business or nothing. This is where that entails. I started looking at this fact that at some point the central bank digital currencies and stuff like that is going to be a reality. Cashless society is going to be a reality. I mean, we're already seeing, I think it's Whole Foods, where that a person put their hand on the scanner the other day.
Hmm.
They scanned it, they paid for their groceries, and out the door they went. I mean, we're getting into a wild paradigm. And I got to looking at it is before the Berlin Wall fell, and I've been to Berlin. I've stood right there at the Berlin Wall, and they ran a parallel society. and that's how that really crumbled down, that situation, and eventually, of course, the wall fell, and they tore it down, and then everything went back to normal, or the best normal you can call it today. And when I look at that, I'm like, that's what we're going to have to deal with now, is running a parallel economy, a parallel society. Because if I wanted to send you crypto right now, I could pay you in multiple different ways instantly. But it's private. Many of those are private. So only you know and I know. And we can convert that and cash that out in multiple countries. And heck, you could put $1 million on a USB stick, fly across to Argentina, and cash out as soon as you get off the plane. And I'm not saying it's the ultimate solution. I'm saying it is the current solution I have found to deal with this climate of financial control, government overreach, and the coming on of AI. It is the only thing I've found that gives me comfort to be able to pay for things, buy food for my family, etc. And I've just used off grid power on the farm that I'm not using for the farm right now to run mining equipment, so that I'm net zero on cost, and then just turn that into cash and pay for guns, preps, food, etc. And so that's kind of been what I've done so far to try to offset the coming beast that's going to rear its ugly head just very shortly.
Yeah, the crypto industry is a very interesting thing. I ended up working in the crypto market for like 3 or 4 months, and some video stuff for a currency company, and learned quite a bit. But I think it's really interesting how they've called it Web 3.0, and and there's this really interesting kind of outlaw feel to it. I think that the early days of Bitcoin set up for people to look at it as a way of exchange outside of the system, and then the banks started to look at it as the solution to, the complete lockdown control state. So it's that interesting duality of crypto being. I thought the use of the word parallel was really interesting. That's like the politically correct way of saying a black market. So, um,
That's why I named my company Black Flag Crypto Mining Co. because they already treat me like a pirate, so might as well own it. So, and
oh,
I
that's
have
really
I have
cool.
no bones about it. I just don't care. I can't tell you how many things I've paid for outside the system, and I just don't care anymore. I mean, my honest truth, I'd say I'll probably be in a FEMA camp in the next 5 years anyway. So no worries. I'll just do my thing in the meantime.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, in that note, what do you think is going to be the crypto of choice in the coming days? Do you think they're going to select Bitcoin, or do you think they're going to go with one of the smaller tokens that, what are your bets?
Well, now XRP is used in like Australia and other countries and stuff for bank transfers and stuff like that. It's become a very large crypto. I think whatever they're going to integrate eventually will look something like between Caspa's platform and XRP. Bitcoin is kind of its own animal. It's a dinosaur, to be completely honest. There's so many other blockchains that's way beyond it. Solana is going to come roaring back. I really believe. I mean, a year ago you could buy it for $12, and I did, and now you give it 3 more months, you'll probably be able to sell it for over $300 a pop. And so, I mean, there's a lot of growth for some of these projects. But I mean, I'd really encourage people, if they're going to get into this realm. I mean, it's like anything else. I look at the U.S. dollar, I look at crypto, I look at anything as a Ponzi scheme anymore, and a rug pull.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people to use what they can in the market right now, get what they can out, better your family and yourself, get ready for the coming days ahead, because I mean, all this is going to be a wash one day.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made, but a lot of money to be lost as well. But I do get that feeling that it's almost like the hand in the cookie jar test. How long do we participate in this system before the lid gets shut and we get, caught with our hand in the cookie jar?
Yep.
So
Every time I've invested in crypto, I've I've lost everything. So I'm not the expert on it. I need an expert. I think you guys know what you're doing. I trust your judgment.
Listen, mining is the best thing to do because you mine it, you cash it out, and then you go buy groceries. You don't look back. That's the best way to feel good about that one.
I mean, there's so many topics that I think we could talk about and get along on. What are you looking at lately? I mean, I know that's just kind of the general overview of kind of what's coming on the world, of what we've been talking about, and but anything peculiar in the scriptures or just in general that are catching your eye recently in your research?
Well, I mean, the thing that I just keep going back to, man, is the mark of the beast. Because all people, both great, small, rich and poor, free and bond, everybody is participatory in that. So when you look at that, I keep going back to the past 3 years, and I'm like, is this the test run for the final, you know, hammer drop? Because a lot of people bent the knee. I did not bend the knee. I won't the next time either. And I'm like, even if that's not, the mark in the hand, you a lot of people's like, well, it wasn't took in the hand. It's like, you don't understand. In Paleo Hebrew, the hand, if you're looking at the symbol, it's the hand and the arm. That's how that's depicted in Paleo Hebrew. And so I'm like, okay, so are we looking at the mark in the hand, and then the as far as the forehead goes, is that mental agreement to the beast system? Because worship is also mental agreement to something. And so I've been looking at that in depth because once that the next time around, the big curtain call, the final curtain, ain't it Frank Sinatra says it's time for the final curtain? Yeah. Whenever that comes, that's going to that's I'm watching that with great anticipation. And the other thing is I mean, with the River Euphrates drying up for sure, and I mean the massive news that's surrounding that, I think it's in the Quran, and that was referenced in there that a mountain of gold would be found, and they're talking about over there that they're already finding gold deposits, things like that. And it wouldn't surprise me if long there isn't some violence and outbreak over that, because that would definitely help draw the kings of the East too, because you see China and etc. having a big part in Africa now, wanting resources. So I mean, these are some things that's been on my radar that I've just been watching very closely, because I just keep feeling like we're watching like if we're playing a game of Risk. I just keep watching this consolidation, and I feel like we're almost there on a lot of the big ticket items in Scripture that everybody's like, is it this? Is it that? Are we here there yet? Where are we at? It's ebbing and flowing, and I think that glass that's partly dark is starting to lighten up to eventually it's going to be crystal clear here in just a few more years ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's well put. I love how in today's world we have such a generation of people programmed by movies like the
Just leave the world behind. Oh my
Oh,
God.
that
Don't
one's
even get me
crazy.
started on that one.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was
Oh
crazy.
man.
They're telling us what they're going to do. Don't be
Yeah,
prepared.
you're talking about the recent movie that came out.
Yeah, by the
What was
Obamas.
that?
Leave the world behind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna start getting prepared for that. I mean, if that's what it's gonna be down to, I'm not gonna be looking for Friends or anything, the TV show. I'm gonna be looking for food.
For real, that was crazy. My wife told me when we got done watching that, she's like, I think I just spent 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. I was like, yep. There
Dude,
was
my
some serious, crazy subliminal messages. And I love the Obey shirt of 1984 and the NASA shirt. I'm
oh
like,
yeah.
are you literally trying to billboard what you're trying to say to us? Because I got the message was received, you know.
Obey
Well,
NASA.
well, my
Yep.
girlfriend actually read the book and told me what was different in the book and what was different in the movie, because they said Barack Obama had a hand in what was changed in the movie. And it's the most crazy stuff that Obama put in the movie. What does he know that we don't know? I might have,
So they have a list of the things that he personally changed.
me and Lindsay do, yeah.
Oh,
I'd
wow.
love
I'd
to
love
see
to
that.
see
We can
that.
almost deconstruct that.
Yeah, we'll have to
That's
for
really cool.
yeah, we'll have to write it down and put it all together, because when she was telling me, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. The whole story. So okay, I'll tell you one of them. This one blew my mind. So you remember at the beginning of the movie when that boat is coming towards you at the beginning? That never happened in the book. Never happened. But if you look at the name of the boat, it is the White Lion. And the White Lion, I believe is what it's called, was the ship that brought over slaves for the first time. So why would that even be thrown in there? Are they trying to tell us that there's a hierarchy or that something's coming back? I mean, why was that even in there? It's just my autistic mind. It doesn't make any sense, like why it's in there at all. It wasn't even in the book. And he badmouths Obama so many times. It's kind of like Kubrick when he did The Shining. It didn't go with the book. Like it was a completely different thing. And I feel like Obama just used that and just kind of based his sick mind around it. I don't know. They didn't even use the production company's name. They used Barack and Michelle Obama. So what are they saying there, right? They're saying, "I want you to know that we are doing this."
Yeah.
I'm just questioning.
Yeah, they put a lot of those messages in Netflix movies, particularly. I think you have it in a lot of different media, but you sure get it a lot there at Netflix. And I think it was just after he left the presidency that Obama became one of the big share owners there. So
Hmm.
for sure,
Yeah, well, you can definitely see, a lot of agendas being pushed in the large media companies now, and especially Netflix. Whatever is the most wokest, newest thing, Netflix will be right on top of it. I mean,
yeah,
that's a given.
Yep. Disney. Hate to say it. I
Oh,
used to love Disney, and now I can't even watch Disney Plus.
Disney has definitely lost it completely. It's slid off the edge of the earth. I mean, it's gone.
Oh
I mean,
man.
it is gone.
Peter Pan was my movie when I was a kid, and I know it has a bunch of subliminal messages, but that was my one movie that I liked. And then they had to put a disclaimer at the beginning saying that it was racist. And then I was a racist for watching it, pretty much. And I was like, what? It's a cartoon. Crazy.
Yeah. That's a big tenet that's being pushed right now in our country. Is I know so many people around the world that I personally call a friend that is a different shade of melanin. I tell people there's no such thing as racist until about 3 years ago, because there's normal human beings and then there's subhuman beings because of damaged DNA. Before that, there's just melaninists because everyone's a human being. There's one race, and there is this whole racism thing. It is just insane how much that agenda is being pushed in this country nowadays. I mean, like, you can get on TikTok and hear people do an interview on the street and ask people how they feel about one another, and it is just and wow, the horrible things they say about this race, that race, per se, whatever. And then they'll ask them to, like, unpack that for me. Why did you arrive at that? Who told you to think that way? And then they'll, like, backpedal and then, like, have no explanation for why they believe this other than they were told to believe this way. It's really wild. Like, racism, the programming that's
Mm.
being put into people on racism alone should be a warning flag to everyone. If they can put this into people's minds using, the mainstream media and everything else, imagine what they're putting in their minds on other things.
Well, mainstream media is just MK Ultra, but on a mass scale. That's what I believe. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
programming and programming, and then they just make people hate for no reason, and it's completely uncalled for. Opa's holding
Yeah.
up a sign that says "gay." Yeah, they're pushing their gay agenda too. I mean, it's like whatever the Most High doesn't want us to do, they're promoting it, and that's how they're trying to totally disrupt how we're supposed to be thinking.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
divide and conquer agenda. Yeah, whenever they divide us, it's easy to turn us against each other. Um, I think that I recently I was thinking of an interesting connection between the deception when it comes to NASA and space programs and the possible medical deception that we can't say certain words on the internet or they'll flag our videos. And but the concept, I wanted to see if you kind of resonated with this concept, but that NASA and the men in white lab coats that we're trained to subconsciously give authority and trust to as we're raised in the school classroom. We're shown the men in white lab coats showing us where we live, and the reason it's easy for us to uh, give authority and have that appeal to authority in the men in white lab coats when it comes to scientism and NASA and all the kind of the fogey space, CGI images that you have a guy wearing that garment saying, I'm basically your representative of truth. Well, whenever we give that appeal to authority of those individuals at NASA, it primes us so that subconsciously we've already done it, so that when a figure of authority stands up in the medical field in a white lab coat, because we've already given authority subconsciously to NASA and that conspiracy, we would then more easily give in. That's why you saw a big rise in space indoctrination revamping in 2018, 2019. And some people believe, it could have been as to fight back against all the flat Earth, videos that were going around.
They want you to obey
But
NASA, bro.
yeah, I can guarantee you there wasn't hardly I probably 0.0000% flat earthers that participated in the medical experiment, because they were almost primed, because they loved the truth so much they investigated the cosmology and the deceptions with the space programs and scientism, that they were given a healthy distrust in the system, so that when the guy in the white lab coat 2 years later, after the flat Earth movement kind of blew up, really as a very viral topic back in 2018 and 2019, then you saw people unwilling to go along with the medical deception. So, I mean, kind of wanted to get your take on what deceptions are left right now, because if you fall for one, you are generally more susceptible to falling for the next one. So what deceptions do you think are coming down the chute today?
Well, I think we're twofold on this thing. So number one is anybody listening to us really needs to focus in that Revelation 18 warns that that people would be deceived by pharmaceutical drug sorcery, pharmakia. Like it's literally laid out that like we need to be literally on guard that this is one of the biggest entities that's going to come after us. I mean, so like at this point, when I see anybody that's in the pharmaceutical industry, I feel like they're working for Umbrella Corp. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, they're Resident Evil kind of stuff. I don't want to be around them. So, like, I mean, tomorrow, if they said, Luke, the zombie apocalypse is taking place, if you do not come down here and do X, Y, and Z and take this and that, you're going to die. I'm going to tell you, like, I'll straight up just die. And the Most High, y'all can go ahead and judge me on Judgment Day, because I'm not participating in that. The second thing is when we look at the scriptural description of the earth in this realm in which we live, once a man comes to the understanding that we're in an enclosed environment, the black holes, the Big Bang, Darwinism, aliens, all this garbage gets filed in File 13 quickly, and you're left with this blank canvas of truth that the scripture very clearly lays out. And when the heavens recede like a scroll one day, people are going to be like tripping in a way they have never flipped out. They're going to lose it whenever the dome is opened up above and the kingdom of the Most High starting to come down. But in the interim, we've got an issue where that you can do Project Bluebeam, you can have an alien invasion. I mean, honestly, if I was Satan Incorporated, I would want an outside threat, just like Reagan stood up at the United Nations and carried on about, and so many others. You really, really, really need an outside threat. And the secondary thing behind that is you need AI to come in and backfill to weed out those that's not going to participate in being the tires, that's going to get burned up in the fire one day. You definitely want to weed them out, the good folks out of the way, and in order to do that, you're going to need AI. So those two things, flat Earth, I think is really going to be attacked in the future, because it is one of the most important keys for unveiling many deceptions that are right on the cusp of happening. And the other thing is I think that the book of Revelation is going to be tried to be laid aside as much as possible, because anybody that has any common sense and the set apart spirit of the Most High upon them is going to look at that book, analyze, critical think, and then look at just Revelation 18 alone and be like, whoa, we are living in the error of the pages of this scripture. Not to mention that prophetic things that are mentioned in this book are literally taking place before our very eyes in our generation. I think that that is paramount, the two of the most paramount things that people really need to keep their eyes on because they're literally happening right in front of us right now.
Absolutely. I mean, people are so blind right now, and they're just willfully blind. They don't even care. Even if it's right in front of them, they just would rather just ignore it. And I was like that for the longest time. Before my dad died, that's how I was. I don't want to know. I don't want to see. But then, once all this evidence is presented to you, you have to accept it, or you feel like the crazy person, right? So we know who the crazy people are, and it's not us.
Yeah, no, I agree with that statement 100%. I mean, here's the thing. It's like the situation we're all in right now is like King Solomon when he come to the conclusion that, there's no amount of women, there's no amount of gold, there's no amount of anything in this life that's ever going to fill that void that the Most High, give to him of wisdom. He's seen everything as vanity in the end, pretty much. And we're at the point where people are cleaving to the world so much, things are falling off the rails. And people's like, well, I'm going to go get high today, or I'm going to go do this today. I'm going to do anything to distract my mind from the harsh reality that I'm watching the final pages of Scripture take place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen so many people that especially whenever there was a lot of struggle in these past 3 years, there was a lot of pressure that you got to do X, Y, and Z because Uncle Sam said you've got to do it. I mean, it was so bad that I seen actually the Australian Parliament, I believe it was, they done an inquiry to a certain pharmaceutical company, and they asked them. They said, "Were people forced to do X, Y, and Z?" And the people said, well, we didn't force anybody to do that. And they said, really? Did you live in Australia the past couple years? And that was, the government officials asking that. And so it's to the point where literally people in positions of great esteem and power are starting to say, if you don't think something's not fundamentally wrong around here, you're kind of asleep at the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing major pastors being exposed for all their debaucheries and wickedness. You're seeing so many things being like I feel like the Most High is just laying bare everything before people that really want to see and ask the hard questions: is this legit or not? And for people that don't want to see, I think they're just being given a spirit of strong delusion and even going further down into stupor.
Yeah, I just like to be, sensitive to the people that stumble across these videos and they're just like, I don't even know where to start. So I think that would be a great place to end off on maybe for you is where would you start somebody who is just like, look, I've sensed something's been off and I didn't like when they were forcing me to do this for my job or whatever. Like where would you tell somebody to start like that?
Woo. Is this a person, a believer, or is this somebody that's never, just, like what are we dealing with here? I mean, I'm like somebody
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
completely
know. Let's say somebody who's just they've gone to Sunday church. They kind of have a family faith. Maybe they've tried to believe and they've made some kind of type of confession in the church type setting, but that's just kind of their culture, their heritage. Um, what I mean, what would you say to somebody like that?
Ooh, all right. Well, I always try to meet people where they are, and sometimes you also have to leave them right where you found them. But for those that are willing, that have eyes to see and ears to hear, what I would tell people is I'd be like, what you need to do is hit a big pause in your life, and you need to macro zoom way out, and you need to ask yourself a couple questions. Am I being told that the Ten Commandments still matter? Am I being told that having faith in Messiah is important? Is honoring the Most High Yah with everything in my spirit the most critical thing? If I'm not being told that wherever I'm at my place of worship, that needs to be a major red flag. Then the next thing you need to ask yourself is, do you feel comfortable that your government is telling you the truth in 100% truth? Because if you even say you're 99% concerned, then the following things need to take place. You need to take the book of Revelation and you need to turn and you need to see what went on in this country and the world in the past 3 years was prophesied to take place by the rich men, the kings of the earth in the last days. You need to look and see that the scripture, if you haven't looked at the true nature of this world in which we live, you need to take a look at the scripture, and I would just give them a whole laundry list of flat earth information, because that you don't have to believe me today. Matter of fact, I don't care if you think the world's a square, a rectangle, triangle. You do you, boo. But just know this, that whenever you see demonic alien forces and things of this nature, like CE4 research, not to go side squirrel for a minute, but CE4 research done a study quite some time ago and found that every time that somebody said they got abducted, that whenever they cried out to Messiah, that abduction stopped, which led them to believe, following that all so-called alien things are demonic. So I would share, that information with the people, and I would tell them and to look in the scripture where that it says the river Euphrates would dry up in the last days. It would happen in the very last days, and not all through these generations, millennia, has it done that until now. And then I would tell them to look at Second Esdras chapter 16. Make sure to read that, even though that's not contained in the 66 books that most people have on their bookshelf. Look that scriptures up, because that's prophesied about the last days, and we're on the cusp of that. And I would say to them that, if you've not really honed in and focused on, the teachings of Messiah and the importance of, if you love me, keep my commandments, love your neighbor as yourself, follow these tenets as close as possible now in the last days, if evermore, because the world is teaching you to do every single thing contrary to what the Gospels say. That would be what I would hit them with on the Carfax right then and there, rubber meeting the road.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier. You're like, don't give me the Carfax, give me the Yah facts. um, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably the simplest breakdown of all the deceptions that are happening, is to distract us from the core essential parts of what it means to be mankind. And I mean, just like you're referring to Solomon, he's been through it all, and he comes to the conclusion of the matter. It's to keep the ways of the Almighty. So,
That's
um,
right.
yeah, I think there's a lot to overwhelm people with all the conspiracies and stuff. But I mean, boiling things down to the most important aspect of life is, just live in truth. And I think that's what's so amazing about the spirit of truth, right? It's drawing all of us, and in general, people seeking after these topics, to dive deeper. And it's kind of it's a really interesting thing. I mean, living in today's world where we have the opportunity to be the most scripturally literate generation, you know, pretty much ever. I mean, if you think about what they had 3,000 years ago, it was like a synagogue with a scroll, and a guy had to basically copy it by hand, and you had to be very delicate, because if you messed it up, then your whole generation loses their connection to the Almighty, right?
Right.
And so it's interesting that now we don't have to speak multiple languages. We don't have to go to seminary, even. We don't have to go to the library and check out the big dusty book. We can all on our devices pretty much dive deep, and I think that's why elements of truth, like you know biblical cosmology for one, the identity of the people of the book, right? What does it mean to follow the ways of the Almighty, and how does that identify you prophetically? Because there's a lot of theology that I think has blinded the church to our role in prophecy in coming, in the future. So, um, yeah, it's a really interesting kind of combination of things that people can go after. And so, thank you for summarizing. To look after the important thing.
I got a question here. What do you think of all these mega churches and their entertainment and their big spectaculars and getting all of these people to just donate and give and
Benny Hinn. What do you think of the Benny Hinns of the world?
yeah, the Benny Hens.
Well, straight is the way, narrow is the gate, and few there be that enter therein. And, when you look at what's going on right now, there are so many people that's hooked on the prosperity gospel,
Mm-hmm.
that's hooked on the watered down version of the way. There is going to be so many that whenever all these grand deceptions hit them, like a brick straight in the face, that they're not going to be ready for it. And I think there's going to be a whole element of people that when Messiah comes back, they're going to be like, I was looking for you. And he's going to say, I never knew you. And it's because the version they were sold, it's like going to the car lot and you're going to buy a Cadillac, but instead you get like some dusty Toyota Corolla. Like that's what you got when you get there to actually pick it up. And I think that that's the situation that so many of those people are going to be caught up in here in the very near future. And then to compound that is when the trumpets start, and when when you really start to see the cream of the crop rise to the top, and those that said, hey, X, Y, and Z's happening, you can go over here and feel good at that sermon, but this is happening today. And I think they're going to really despise those that's in the truth because they didn't receive the love of the truth. And I think that's really going to be an element that many people's going to see transpire in the future.
Yeah, I think some of these big mega churches are turned into more of an entertainment thing, like Vegas or
It's like a circus.
wow.
Especially here in Dallas, DFW, it's like every megachurch. Kenneth Copeland, Bob Tilton, Robert Tilton was from here. They're all located here. It's fun to expose them. I know at one point my family members were like looking into it, because that's what you do when you seek truth. You look at every direction, but we could tell it was so fake. It's like I had been to Disneyland at that point, so I know it's fake. Yeah, I think the prosperity gospel thing is just, I could go all day on that.
Yeah, that's a different animal right there. What I would say to that real quickly is that having been in church, and having been there for a long time, and then leaving that to come to the way and pretty much completely do a 180 in your life and doing something completely different now than what the church doctrines and dogma and everything else told you to do. It felt so foreign in the beginning, that to the point now where that anything I do, I can go to the scripture and be like, X, Y, and Z, this is why I do it. As in opposition to what the church told me to do. That is such a peace of mind and comfort today, because my number one concern is do not die in an unrighteous state. And we are living in a day where so many people think that they're in a good place with the Most High Yah, and if they died today, they are not going to wake up in the resurrection in a good spot. And that is so concerning to me, because I don't know if it's willful ignorance or they're truly blind, but I really hope that many people see what's coming before it's too late.
Yep. All right, man. Well, we'd love to have you on in the future too. I know, as Jake said, people that are just now stumbling upon this, maybe once they wake up a little bit more, we'd love to have you back on. And where can people find your channel?
So I'm over on YouTube. I'm Seven Trumpets Prepper over on YouTube. All my Hall of Fame stuff that's been deleted by Google Incorporated is over on Odyssey. So you can find some real good fire streams and stuff over on Odyssey, because it's about usually right after I produce it, they delete it. And then pretty much, I mean, if people want to reach out to me, they can hit me up at the number 7 trumpetsprepper@gmail.com. I'll be glad to answer questions, help people whenever I can. I mean, I've spent, the past 13 years stomping from Alaska to Europe to Canada to, down toward Mexico to, whenever somebody's asked me to speak or go help or whatever, I've tried to be there. So, while I've got the breath of life in me and can do it, if I can be a help to somebody, I'll try my best to do it, because there's going to come a time where the opportunities like we have right now, these won't be going on anymore.
I appreciate you coming on Skiba News Nation. I know my dad would have probably loved to have you as a guest, and it's fulfilling knowing that I can do that. So thank you.
Yeah, real quickly, and honor your dad. And first off, I want to tell you, man, I appreciate the invite. It's been an honor to be with you. But back when me and Joel was doing the Restoring the Foundations conference, we had reached out to your dad and talked to him. And it just so happened, because of scheduling, he was going to be at another event, I think, speaking in the same weekend, and it just couldn't work out to get him there. And it's been so great, that I've got to talk with you now and chop it up, because we really wanted to have him out there. And I pray that your dad's reward in the new kingdom is great, because, man, his work has long outlived him, and it is going to be wild to see the souls that it continues to reach in the years following.
I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. And
Absolutely, brother.
I hope he'd be proud. So, yeah, man, thank you a lot.